From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the News 8 Daily 8 Podcast with Wish TV's Kylie Conway. A Wish TV News 8 update.
Hi, this is Kylie Conway, and this is your News 8 Daily 8 for Thursday, May 19th. We are going to be back in the 80s today, for the first half of the day being dry. Skies are going to be sunny going into the afternoon hours, so that's awesome after all the fog we had this morning. Some scattered showers and storms are possible as we get closer to sunset later on, and those chances will stick with us through the overnight hours. IMPD now says a man is dead after a shooting on the near north side of Indianapolis, and officers are searching for this shooter. IMPD initially said it didn't know if the victim was an adult or a teenager. There is a homicide team there at the scene. This is around 38th and North Illinois Street. Police say there are multiple bullet casings on the street and that they're collecting evidence. The officers say it happened around 2:15 this morning. Police found the victim on North Illinois, just south of 38th. Officers say he was lying on a sidewalk near a vehicle that someone shot at. Police say the vehicle was still running with music playing as it was idling. The man was rushed to the hospital in critical condition and died there.
At this time, anytime a life is taken, it just, our hearts goes out to the families of these individuals.
Police haven't released any information about the shooter. If you have any information, you're asked to call police. IMPD sent out new homicide numbers. The department says there have been 78 murders in Indianapolis so far this year. That's 19 fewer than this time last year. And police are searching for whoever shot a teenager a number of times in downtown Kokomo. It happened at Buddy's Mart on Apperson Way Tuesday night. Officers say they found the victim, a 16-year-old boy, nearby at the Jackson Street Commons. Police say they think the teenager will survive. Investigators say the victim and shooter know each other. Officers are checking surveillance cameras in the area and ask anyone who lives nearby to do the same. An accused killer will no longer run for office. Andrew Wilhoit is out of the race for Township Board in Boone County. Wilhoit got enough votes in the May primary to make it to the November ballot, but he's also in jail facing charges for murdering his wife. In his withdrawal form, Wilhoit did not say why he took his name out of contention. Wilhoit was one of 3 Republican candidates to make it to the general election. Police arrested him in late March for the killing of Elizabeth Wilhoit. The white man accused of killing 10 black people at a Buffalo supermarket will be in court today. A massacre investigators believe was fueled by hate and racism. The accused shooter pleaded not guilty last week to first-degree murder. Authorities say more charges could come in today's felony hearing. This comes as investigators examine hundreds of online documents that the suspect posted, including a private diary he kept on the chat platform Discord. The diary says the suspect planned his attack in secret. Discord also confirmed he sent out an invite to access his writings 30 minutes before the shooting.
We oftentimes call these shooters lone wolves, but in fact, they're part of an extremist network that meets and connects and inspires each other to action online.
The New York governor authorized a state investigation into the social media platforms the suspect used. Investigators will now determine if those platforms are liable for allowing the promotion of violence. Congress moves forward on a bill aimed at preventing domestic terrorism. The measure would set up systems to track and analyze potential terror activity. The House passed it largely along party lines, with all Democrats and 1 Republican voting for it, and all other Republicans voting against it. Next, it heads to the Senate, where its fate is not clear. The government takes new steps to end the baby formula shortage. Members of the House approved emergency measures last night. Now 2 bills are heading to the Senate. The first would provide $28 million in emergency funding to the FDA. Part of the money is allocated for more FDA inspectors to speed up formulas getting to market. The second bill is called the Access to Baby Formula Act. It would ensure that families in the Women, Infants, and Children, or WIC program, can continue to get formula during an emergency. This hopefully means that parents will no longer have to stress out about how they're going to feed their babies. And that's something President Biden says he understands as a parent and grandfather. Biden is using the Defense Production Act. That will ensure manufacturers have the necessary ingredients to make safe and healthy infant formula. It also gives the government the ability to require suppliers to direct needed resources to infant formula manufacturers before any other customer who may have ordered it. The president is also moving forward with Operation Fly Formula.
That's to be able to speed up the import of infant formula and start getting more formula in stores as soon as possible. I've directed the Department of Defense and the Department of Health and Human Services to send aircraft, planes overseas to pick up infant formula that meets U.S. health and safety standards so we can get it on the store shelves faster. And I've directed my team to do everything possible to ensure there's enough safe baby formula and that it's quickly reaching families that need it the most.
And the shortage is blamed on the country's largest plant shutting down, among a few other factors. News 8 did speak with Peter Pitts. He's a former associate commissioner for the FDA. He tells us the manufacturing protocols were not in compliance with FDA standards. Now, President Biden says the shortage is one of his top priorities, and he hopes to help those who are in need the most. And ahead of the president's announcement and the vote in Congress, we spoke to Indiana Congresswoman Victoria Spartz. She wants long-term changes.
I want to have more competition, more small enterprises that are innovative, agile, be able, to compete in our markets and diversify the markets. I think that is a huge problem in every industry I touch. I'm sitting on the antitrust subcommittee and I'm like, oh my gosh, we as a government become detriment to innovation and suppressing small businesses and entrepreneurs to be able to enter the markets. That is a situation almost in every business, whether it's lumber, whether it's the hog industry, whether it's baby formula, whether it's pharmaceutical industry, whether it's PBM industry, insurance industry, any industry you touch. It is government detriment to success. So we need to reform this agency, not just do the talk, but have a serious reforms.
You can hear our full interview with Spartz on All Indiana Politics Sunday morning. That's at 9:30 on Wish TV. And today, the Senate will vote on the $40 billion aid package to Ukraine. It's expected to pass despite some opposition from the GOP earlier this week, including from Indiana Senator Mike Braun. In a statement to News 8, Braun says, I support helping Ukraine expel the Russian invasion, but as inflation, gas prices, and shortages wallop Americans here at home, I can't support $40 billion of new spending unless it's offset with cuts or taken from already authorized funds, especially when the European Union isn't matching what we're doing to end this conflict in their own backyard. Republicans say Congress should not become a blank check for overseas action while Americans are dealing with domestic issues. The U.S. reopened its embassy in Kyiv. Officials celebrated by raising the American flag. The embassy reopened yesterday after evacuating consulates and embassies ahead of Russia's invasion 3 months ago. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says additional safety measures are being put in place at the embassy. The Senate confirmed Bridget Brink as U.S. ambassador to Ukraine last night. She is the first confirmed ambassador since 2019. And Blinken says one of his top priorities is to free American basketball star Brittany Griner from custody in Russia. Blinken says he spoke with Griner's wife over the weekend. Russian authorities arrested Griner at an airport in February on charges that she had illegal cannabis material. Late last week, a Russian court extended her stay in custody ahead of trial. The State Department says a representative of the U.S. Embassy tried to visit Griner Monday, but Russian authorities did not allow it. A dramatic increase in hepatitis C cases has Marion County health leaders calling for an extension to a safe syringe program. Health officials believe the stress of the pandemic is fueling an increase in drug use in Marion County. The health department says thousands of people have used the exchange program in recent years. The program collects used syringes and distributes clean ones to discourage people from sharing them. But there has been controversy of the program, people with differing opinions over it.
Some people look at it as we're enabling them to do drugs. And I don't see it that way. I see it as it is a way to keep from spreading continued disease that is plaguing our society.
That was Indianapolis City County Councilor Lakeisha Jackson speaking right there. Now, the program also offers drug counseling and other resources. The program still needs approval from the City County Council and Mayor Joe Hogshead. The CDC is warning of more hepatitis cases in children. The agency has 180 case reports across 36 states and territories, including Indiana, over the last 7 months, including more than 70 in the last week. The agency says most of the cases are in children under the age of 5. Nearly all children have been hospitalized. 15 have been so ill that they've needed liver transplants. And the CDC is also expecting an increase in COVID-19 deaths and hospitalizations over the next 4 weeks. According to a new forecast from the agency, daily deaths could increase by about 80 people a day. It says hospitalizations could increase anywhere from 1,300 to 11,000. This is the fourth consecutive week hospitalizations are predicted to increase. The CDC's director says it's time to return to some COVID prevention methods in some communities.
In areas where community levels are high, everyone should be using prevention measures and wearing a mask in public indoor settings. In areas with medium COVID-19 community levels in yellow, individuals should consider taking prevention measures based on their own risk, like avoiding crowds, wearing a mask, increasing their testing, especially before gathering with others indoors.
As of yesterday, the CDC says 4% of U.S. counties have high COVID-19 levels. A final farewell for a fallen Wayne Township firefighter. You might have noticed that flags are flying half-staff across Marion County today. That was an order by Governor Eric Holcomb in honor of engineer Richard Hank Potter. There's a funeral procession at 1:45 this afternoon. The Wayne Township Fire Department says it will start at the Grand Hall Conference Center on North High School Road, travel south to Washington Street, and stop at Fire Station 82. Then it ends with a private service for Potter's family. Potter died last week. His death from cancer is presumed to have been due to the years he spent fighting fires and is considered a line-of-duty death. And as Scott Sander and I do each Thursday morning on Daybreak, we sat down with Inside Indiana business host Gerry Dick to talk Indiana business headlines. Here's the conversation from this morning.
We're talking about the town of Speedway. We're just talking about the transformation it's undergone. Of course, always has embraced the race, but it wants to be known for much more than that.
Yeah, very good point. And that's indeed true. This is a big weekend, obviously, with qualifications next weekend. The race, of course, so the eyes of the world will be on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's a coming out party of sorts, too, for the town of Speedway. As mentioned, this revitalization that really began, say, around 2007, had more than a few doubters back then who said, can Speedway really pull this off? Well, you walk around Main Street in the area there, you can see that it has indeed been pulled off. More than $500 million in private and public investment, and that number continues to grow. That's not to mention the big expansion with the new Innovation Center at Allison Transmission, the corporate anchor of Speedway as well. There are restaurants, craft beer, wine, you name it. People living in downtown Speedway. And we're going to talk to Speedway officials this week about that and what's next. And interestingly enough, one project that hasn't really taken off is this hotel right there at the corner of Main Street, 16th and Georgetown. They have a closing set for later this month, perhaps early June. So some positive news there.
Pen to paper on that. We'll finally believe it happens.
Get it going.
You mentioned craft beer. A bunch of drink makers are getting, if you will, craft beer.
Yeah. And these are entrepreneurs, small business owners, people with ideas in the food and drink business. Yelp's Brittany Smith will join us this weekend to take a tour around the state of Indiana, really, and look at some of these unique drinks, whether it's for the summer concert or patio season, whatever the case might be. These drinks from Ferdinand to Bloomington to Valparaiso in Northwest Indiana as well. Really innovative, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks under development around the state of Indiana. So we'll take a look at that as well.
And so what's coming up on Sunday?
A lot more Speedway. A couple of scoops there we have with the town of Speedway's growth. Also, how Indiana schools fared in that big robotics world championship. Number of Indiana teams there, the big STEM movement. And around Indiana, we'll tee off at Back 9, another transformation potentially in an area near downtown Indianapolis. Back 9, people compared to Topgolf, kind of a lot different. We'll talk about that as well. From our partners at the Indianapolis Business Journal, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and IndyCar locking in on this diversity plan they announced a few years ago for both the series and also the fan base. Indiana lawmakers preparing to override a transgender athlete bill as well, and a cultural diversity plan in Indianapolis as well. Those are just some of the stories coming up in the IBG.
And again, you can catch that each Thursday morning on Daybreak with Gerry Dick. Country Kitchen is coming back at its original spot. The owners of the popular local restaurant are sharing the plans to rebuild at the original location. A fire 2 years ago destroyed the original Country Kitchen. Now it sits at 19th and College. Since then, the owners have been offering carryout at temporary digs. And the owners say construction will start next month.
It's going to be a total different feel from what we had before, but the love and the community support and the things that we're used to will still be there. Although it's another building, it's still going to be the same old Country Kitchen.
Country Kitchen hopes to have its new location up and running by next March. And happening right now, the second major of the golf season is underway. The PGA Championship is at Southern Hills in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This year's tournament has a major absence. Defending champion Phil Mickelson is not there. He withdrew in the fallout of on-course and off-course controversies. Another major winner also pulled out. Bryson DeChambeau is dealing with a lingering wrist injury. The first team of the day, the first tee time of the day, I should say, belonged to John Daly, who won the same tournament in Central Indiana in 1991 when Crooked Stick and Carmel hosted it. And finally, to Colts, the team sets a date to induct Tarek Glenn into the Ring of Honor. That will happen on October 30th when the Colts play the Commanders. Glenn spent his entire 10-year career with the Colts as a tackle guard. Glenn will become the 18th member of the Ring of Honor. This has been your News 8 Daily 8 for Wish TV. I'm Kylie Conway. Online at wishtv.com and follow us on Facebook when you search Wish TV.
This is the News 8 Daily 8 podcast with Wish TV's Kylie Conway. A Wish TV News 8 update on demand. For even more, on demand and on the go. Connect with Wish TV on Facebook at wishtv.com and on the free Wish TV mobile app. Thank you for listening. And be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast for updates every weekday morning on the All Indiana Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcast.